All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 2nd, 2022 REI Pro Talk with Bo Manry and Chris Goff. Now, today's talk is sponsored by REI Pro, the #1 software tool for investors and agents. Now, I'd like to thank all of you here that are attending today for your support of REI Pro. This is why we are here. It is a benefit to you guys. We want to make sure we bring you the best education to help you be successful.
Todd is mentioning here that he's wanting to diversify into the lease options in North Carolina. Due to his situation, he doesn't want to do a sandwich lease option, which would, put you in the middle of the deal. So he's looking at doing what's called an assignment. Generally, when you do an assignment of a lease option, hey, I don't want to be a part of this deal anymore. I'm going to pass this deal on to somebody else to do this. You can also do it in a way that, hey, you could just have the seller and the buyer sign, and you'll get part of what we call a fee through the down payment. And now the deal is really just between the buyer and the seller, and you kind of move on to the next thing. Now, as far as profitability, of course, it would be more profitable to stay in the middle. So we're not going to get into, Todd's specific situation. But question number one, since he's assigning the seller's contract, do I need to involve an attorney at this point? I realize the tenant buyer will need a closing attorney when he buys the property in the future. So, general concept, I have to say publicly with any contract, sure, you should always have an attorney, make sure the contract's good. But as far as the lease option, I've spent close to $1,500 just on attorneys and revamping and things that we've done with the lease option contract that's in REI Pro. So I feel pretty good with that point of view. So no, my first answer to that is you really don't need an attorney at this particular point. Obviously, the buyer, when they get ready to close, they're going to have to go through either a title company or closing attorney to get all that taken care of. The second part to this, he's got question number 2 is, are there any suggestions or concerns on doing a signing of a lease option? I don't want to say I have a concern, but my concern would be is I don't think a lot of people know how to set the term with the new buyer. So when you assign a contract that's saying, hey, I'm going to sign this contract to X buyer, and in return, I want $5,000. Well, to the seller, it really doesn't matter if you assign it or not, as long as the seller is getting what you agreed to pay the seller. So when you set the new term, and if you guys have a pen and paper, this would actually be pretty ideal here. And I'm just going to keep a simple number here just to get through the example. If you agree to pay the seller $100,000 for the property with a $2,000 down payment, and forget about the monthly, forget about the term, that's going to carry over. You would ultimately owe the seller $98,000. So 100 minus the 2 you put down, you would owe the seller 98. Now, if I bring a buyer into this deal and I want to set the term with the buyer, I can't give them that same term, 100, 2,000 down, because I'm not going to make any money. So in order for me to make money on this deal, I have to increase the sales price along with the down payment to compensate my fee for doing this. So as an example, again, we can move these numbers however you want. This is the easiest way to explain how to set the term, the price, and the down. If I know my buyer can give me, let's say, 10,000 down, okay? Remember, with the seller, I owe them 2,000 on a $100,000 property, so they are expecting 98. All you have to do is take 98 plus the 10,000 the new buyer is going to give me, and that's their new sales price. So it would be 108,000, 10,000 down, and then whatever the monthly and the term you agreed with the seller. Okay. So you literally are having two different terms here. Now, does the seller know that? Absolutely. Now, most sellers, when they list and sell a house, all the commission is paid by the seller. So they're going to love you for this one, because actually the buyer's paying your, I'm not going to call it a commission, but your fee for doing this transaction. Okay, so be sure to set the term, the sales price and the down payment appropriately. Now, a lot of this has to come down to how much the buyer could put down. Because if the buyer says, "Hey, Chris, I only have $5,000 to put down," well, then the sales price is 103,000 now, because all they have is five. So for me and the seller, we're going to pay 100 with 2,000 down equals 98. With the new buyer, they're going to pay 103 with 5,000 down. That equals 98. So the seller's getting exactly what we agreed. It's just we have to compensate my fee for signing the deal over. The great part about this is now you're out of the deal. So no matter what happens, it's between the buyer and the seller. So there's just a couple of tips there for you. Hopefully that will help.
All right. So the next question is coming from Cindy, and Cindy is going to ask it live. So here we are,
Good deal.
Cindy. See if she can.
Hello,
Hey, Sandy, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. And I do love your REI Pro. I think it's user friendly and it's amazing, the software.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Hey, it's only going to get better.
That's
We
awesome.
got a lot of cool things in store that are coming. So
If you're just starting out in real estate like I am, and you want to have control without ownership, with zero money of your own to invest in the first couple of deals, by doing sandwich lease options, the thing I'm finding is how to find what's the best source of finding the motivated sellers. I know you mentioned in the last webinar, just verify for me that, if you're calling 100 people and not able to close a deal, something's wrong. But I think you meant that would be someone who had the option to maybe offer cash, or they understood subject to, or they had some more tools in their tool belt. So I'm really wondering what you recommend. Do you recommend texting first and letting them know you're interested in the property, but you'd like to lease it for a couple years and then buy? So anyone who answered that text favorably would be a warm lead. Do you suggest for sale by owners? Because what I'm finding is most of them want cash, but maybe that's how it always is. For rent by owners, you'd be looking for reluctant landlords. So I'm asking for your advice on one of the best ways to really find the motivated sellers for a sandwich lease option.
yeah, so just kind of start with the foundation. Generally, when I think of a lease option, I'm thinking nice areas, nice neighborhoods, homes that don't need a lot of work to begin with.
Mhm.
But I would target, and I'll tell you how to target, properties that don't have much equity. Now, most investors don't even go after houses that have little equity, because in most people's minds is I can't make money with a property that doesn't have equity in it.
Okay.
So the way to approach that is I would start with the vacant properties and the absentee owners and do a direct mail.
Okay.
Texting is a little, I would say, shady, but people get pissed off when you start getting text messages that are advertisements.
Mhm.
And that's why there's new laws in place that are really preventing, certain states. I know here in Florida, there's very specific laws about doing that. Now, if you just manually texted somebody from your phone, that's different than these companies trying to do all these auto texting and kind of do it more in bulk. So I'd just be cautious with the texting. I think we're setting the wrong tone. I'd rather you just pick up the phone and call the person personally, but obviously that takes time. So that's why I like direct mail. But I would be targeting properties. Now, keep in mind, I want to if everybody could see my screen, if I go straight to the dashboard here and switch my view, and let's say that right now I have Orlando, Florida as my area. I'm looking for the median home price. So with lease options, I really want to stick with this 390 and up. So maybe I go to 700, even 800,000. And that's going to be my price point in Lead Pro. And then I want to take properties that have little equity, because a lot of sellers, I always say you're always finding situations, because situations really determine how the property is going to be sold. And you never know what those situations are until you reach out to people. And that's where I think direct mail marketing is good. It could be just a tired landlord, or maybe they're just tired of renting it, but they love the cash, or, maybe it's somebody with little equity that can't even, hire a real estate agent to list the house because they can't afford to pay the commission on it. And that's where a lease option is really good. I used to call, when I got started with lease options, a little bit different when I got started, because I would just pull the Washington Post newspaper and I would take every house for rent and I would call them and ask them, because I figured, hey, if you're willing to accept a monthly payment already, now it's just a matter of, do you want to eventually sell it?
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to come across now that this is your company. This is what you do. You specialize in a different way of selling your home, and you work with buyers that just need a little bit of time, to get qualified, especially after this pandemic. You're going to find a lot more people in that situation. And as we start to progress here in this year and next year, you're going to find a lot more motivated sellers on this end, more higher end properties, because of the cost, where, 3-4 years ago, it was easy to live in a $800,000 home for people. But now today they're going, well, maybe we need to live in a $500,000 home because they don't have that extra spendable income.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always going to be people that can afford it. And those are the people we're really trying to target. So, to give you one tip is, number one, it's going to be absentee owners, even potential vacants. I would stick with that medium price point and up. And then I would only target properties that have, I'm going to say, just say 30% equity or less.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have much equity to work with, but people's situations change. And we're trying to nail down that situation. So there's a couple of tips there.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
just to clarify from the previous webinar, when you make multiple offers,
Mm-hmm.
your acceptance ratio is going to go way up. And one of the cool things about when I talk about multiple offers, you could actually create 3 or 4 different lease option offers.
Oh, okay.
Because you think about it, I always say, what is the seller's pet peeve? Is it the sales price? Is it the down payment? Is it the monthly? Or is it maybe the term of it? I always say there's a pet peeve. And most of the time, we'll just say most of the time, the seller's pet peeve is the sales price. And if I feel that, oh, this seller has to have this much money to do this deal, I won't even argue it. I'll give them that sales price, assuming that obviously it makes sense, but I'll get the terms. If you want that sales price, then I'm going to go a little bit lower on the down.
Mm-hmm.
If you want more on the down, I'm going to go, a little less on the sales price. And the cool thing is you keep moving these numbers around just a little bit and it's a different offer.
Got it.
So also keep that in mind. Try to figure out what the pet peeve is. I think that's probably the hardest thing for people to do, is they just kind of follow a system, but it really comes down to what's their motivation, what's their situation, and what's their pet peeve. And that will help you structure the offer in a way that's going to be more acceptable. We have too many investors out there that go, no, I'm just going to lowball and see what they say, because I can always go up. But usually when I'm working with nice homes and nice neighborhoods, I try to be extremely fair on the price. It's just, I'm going to get better terms.
Okay.
So hopefully
Very
those are
helpful.
some things.
Oh no,
Awesome.
I'm taking notes. Very, very helpful. Can I piggyback on that and ask you then, what would be a realistic budget to get your within, let's say, a month, your first sign lease option, if you're going to do the direct mail, like you have, I know you have templates, you have it all set up, you grab your list of absentee owners, and then of course you'd need to skip trace to get the, the numbers to call these ones you're doing the direct mail, right? Or would the direct mail be where they would call you? How does that work? And how many should you do? How often? I know you just can't do it, 500 in a week or a month or whatever you recommend and go, oh, wow, it didn't work. I mean, I know there has to be some consistency. So would you do it for 3 months? How many would you recommend sending out, to get
Yeah.
a
Let me
first?
tell you, here's what I would do. I would send direct to mail first, and then if you don't get a response, follow up with a phone call.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't do the phone call, I'm gonna wait 30 days and I'm gonna send that same list out because I may try a different card at this point. I think the biggest, you said it, and you're right, it's consistency. You just need to be consistent with sending out the information, but phone call is going to be the most direct way to get to people.
Okay.
And, and I think you got to craft that good, that intro, especially you think about if you call somebody that is an absentee owner, they don't have the house for sale, it's not for rent, but you're calling to see if they would do this. In their mind, they're going, now, wait, why are you calling me again?
Mhm.
So that's where hey, you were just in the neighborhood, saw this house, just pulled you up, saw that you may be renting it or something. Have you ever considered doing a lease option on it where, you could lease it out, get a non-refundable down payment, and then eventually sell it within a year? Not sure if that's something you've thought about or not, but you work with people and that's what your business is.
That's
Mhm.
funny you just mentioned that, Chris. I was going to tell you that exact same thing because part of her question that I don't think she really asked was how you establish credibility as a new investor with these people.
Yeah.
And the way you just said that is one of the ways I do it when I'm talking to somebody and I'm already establishing the fact that I'm not living in the home, right? So that question kind of gets not even asked at that point. So that was a
Yeah.
good way to approach that.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and listen to the recording. I didn't quite capture all that, but that's good because that's what comes up sometimes. We'll get really close to getting the deal signed, and then they'll be like, "Well, who are you? Can I see your website? I want your financials." And I know sometimes we provoke that out of them when we don't have enough confidence. And I think you've even shared about that.
That usually is the case actually, because I started when I was 24, 25 years old. And I'm thinking today, gosh, if a 25-year-old came to me, I'd be like, who in the hell are you? Like, you know, but I think it was the way that I talked to people. I had a lot of confidence, and half the time I didn't even know what the heck I was talking about. But man, I was talking. Hey, man, I love this house. You see the weather. Sometimes I started talking about things that had nothing to do with the house because I realized very quickly that I had to build trust. In order to build the trust, I kept asking questions. And it didn't always, hey, how old's the roof? I wouldn't necessarily ask those questions. I'd ask, yeah, how long have you lived here? Where are you guys looking to move? Oh, I've been there before. And now it starts a whole different conversation. And next thing you know, they invite you in the house, then you're going through the house and they're almost selling you the house at this point.
Mm.
So I know that's hard for some people just to go in, but you hear it all the time. You fake it till you make it. And I had to fake it till I make it because I didn't know what the heck I was talking about half the time. But I had confidence. I
Mm.
looked people in their eyes. I smiled, and I think people feel that from you.
Mhm. I
So,
agree.
all right.
All right, perfect. Well,
Thanks for the
thanks, Cindy, for
question.
jumping on and talking with us live.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so the next one is Kennedy. Kennedy, you didn't specify whether you could do it live or not. I'll give you just a second to raise your hand. There's a raise hand button down there. If not, I can ask. He's got like several questions here kind of wrapped into one. Let's see.
Yeah, either or.
Either or. Yeah, not seeing he's on, but I'm not seeing whether you can do it live. So let's just start. First question he has is, do you guys have a mentorship program? And before you answer that, I'll just piggyback on a couple things here. because he has some deals I'm not sure how to structure. How can I get help? And then I'll ask the next one after that.
We do have a coaching program. We don't really advertise it publicly. If you go to my website, you can see that it's shut down. People that do inquire through REI Pro, Bo, if you could put in the email address, if you are interested in getting help and pushing your business way faster than ever before, we offer a very unique coaching program. You work directly with me. We do not have paid coaches in our office. Bo will also participate depending on the level. We have 3 different levels of coaching. A lot of it just really comes down to where your budget is. Okay. So if you want to get information about that coaching, shoot us an email. Bo, you're going to put that out there. It's coaching@myreipro.com. And we'll be happy to send you some information about each program. It's kind of bullet pointed. Coaching is a big subject to talk about. But if you are interested, I will definitely schedule a call with you and we can talk about it.
All right. And the reason I wanted to separate the two, because the other questions he had was, how can I send 3 different offers at the same time? Which is different. Can I just get help in a mentor program?
Yeah. So, well, number one, you can email them all at the same time. So my goal is if I go into, let's just go into a property here and I go down and scroll down. The beauty is we're actually changing this page tree, guys. We're going to be bringing a lot more new analytics and simplifying some of the information here, which is going to be really cool, guys. All right, so when you go in and make your multiple offers, so if I go through a cash offer, I go through a lease option offer and so forth, I'm going to go to print offer. Now, when I do this, I have the ability to either print them out individually or I could do my creative financing ones together. Okay, so if you do all 3, you're going to want to print these out, save them to your computer, and then it's up to you if you're going to hand deliver them or if you're going to email them to the seller. Either way, I hate making offers verbally because it's easy to say no. It is amazing when people see the information on a piece of paper, give them time to really just absorb it. It makes a lot more sense to people. Okay. So, how do we deliver it? Obviously, I like to do it in person. If you can't do it in person, then I would shoot an email. Once you email it, I want you to follow up with a phone call, if they have any kind of questions about it. And that presentation to me is so easy. This is so easy. When I go visit a property and I'm walking through the property, so step number 3, we're doing a property inspection. We're building that trust with the owner. I literally tell the owner, now, how much are you looking to get for this property? Let's just say it's 150. Say, okay, now the great thing of working with us is I can actually make you a few different types of offers on the property. So I'll just throw something out like that. Now they have no idea what that means, right? If they ask me, what does that mean? Then I go and say, well, have you ever thought about, now we could pay cash for the property, but have you ever thought about maybe taking payments for a short period of time where you don't have to worry about any maintenance costs, repairs, tenants, toilets, headaches, and all that good stuff? We could do that. Or we also have a lease to own program where we work with buyers that need a little bit of time to get qualified. We put them with a mortgage broker. They're on a game plan, and you're just going to receive rent. It's a better quality tenant for your property, and that's assuming you'd want sell 12 months from now. I leave it at that. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about, and I don't care at this point, because what I just did was plant a seed in the seller's head that I'm going to give them multiple offers. They don't know what it means. So now when I take those multiple offers, they'll look at my cash offer and they'll go, oh, Chris, I can't take that low. I figured you couldn't take that low, but in order for me to pay cash, the money it's going to take to rehab it, the time and all of that, unfortunately, I still have to make some money. I have to be here And that's why I put these other two offers together, because I can pay a little bit more. I just need to get them on terms, right? So I can't just cash you out today. So that might work out in your benefit. I couldn't tell you how many times I got a deal just by doing that one thing. I know they're not going to take the cash offer, but I still give it to them, because as soon as I give them the cash offer that doesn't look good to them, the other offers already look better. And it separates me from all the other investors out there because nobody else is doing it. Everybody just gives one offer, take it or leave it. So I know I kind of expanded on that, Bo, but I feel that.
Well, no,
that
yeah, but that was really good
important.
education to point there, because we always preach the multiple offers and the
Yeah,
reasoning behind it. That's a good reason that maybe people aren't even thinking about. Yeah, well, I know they're not going to take it. Well,
right.
we know they're not going to take it, but it sure does make the other ones look good.
And sometimes I'll tell them that up front, Bo, is look, I know this isn't what you want as far as a cash offer, but in order for me to profit from it and the time and money it's going to take me to put this house in tip-top shape,
Mhm.
unfortunately, this is where I got to be. But that's why I put these other two offers together for you. And it's like you're doing them a favor. That's what it feels like.
Yep. So
All
last
right.
question from Kennedy. He says, how can I use your program to get listings as a real estate broker?
Well, Lead Pro is where you'd want to go. And one of the cool things, let me just pull up an area here. So I'm just going to, well, actually, if you're a broker and you're looking to list properties, right? Maybe you target a specific area, you go to owner occupied, right? You could go to absentee owner as well, but yeah, there's a lot of different places you could go to. Let me go ahead and search. There's a ton of properties, like 500,000 or something. I think it said, Bo. All right. So we have 500,000 properties. Here's what I love about, and this isn't even just a broker. If you're a plumber or any other kind of business that you need to do direct mail to, what I want you to do is scroll in. And let me move my cameras over here because I can't get all my tools. There we go. I'm going to scroll in a little bit more to where this neighborhood button is going to pop up. So you may be targeting very specific neighborhoods. And as I go in, I can now start to see these different neighborhoods. Okay. And again, there's a lot of neighborhoods here, but just an example. So if I go in, I say, okay, I want Northgate Estates as an example. I'm going to take my draw tool and I'm literally going to go right around this particular neighborhood. And I'm only going to select these properties that are here. From here, I could do this again and again and again. Okay, so there's actually 692 properties just in that particular subdivision. I could then take this and go to my actions top left here. And now I can actually start building, put these in a campaign. Once I built my campaign, now I could do bulk skip tracing. I can order postcards and start marketing these particular subdivisions. And this is really good. If you are a real estate agent, this is a home run. If you're an investor that only buys in specific neighborhoods, or maybe you only buy in specific school zones, I could go up to my schools here and say, okay, where are my high school zones? Let me back out here so you can start to see, of course I picked the D- area, right? So you may not want to be in that particular school zone there, but as an example, if you want to target just the school zone, because when you're trying to sell a house, generally people are going to have children, right? And the very first thing, they want their kids to go to a good school. If that's the case, I can actually add all of the properties within that specific school zone into a marketing campaign and market it that way as well. So not only is this good for realtors, obviously it's great for rehabbers, because how many times, Bo, you had that one property just outside in a different school zone, and it could be tricky sometimes to get rid of those properties. So
All right. So
hopefully
next,
that helped.
oh yeah, and I'm glad you showed them all that about the neighborhoods and this, because a lot of people, sometimes they miss these features or the strategy of why they're there. Why do we even put them there? That was a good explanation. All
Yep.
right. So the next person, I don't really have her question. She wants to ask it live. It's going to
Okay.
be Trisha. And let me see here. Trisha, I'm going to see if I can get you on here. All right, Trisha, are you there?
Hi, Bo. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly fine.
Oh, wow. This is really cool. I love your program. I'm a real estate agent and I'm also studying to become broker. Plan to have my own office probably in the next couple of months.
Good deal.
So, yeah. So, and I am a foreclosure queen, short sale specialist. That's my little niche there. That's what I like, love. That's why I like this particular program. Yeah, I just wanted to, you're navigating this program really well. Like that's what I wanted to know, how to like get the actual people, how to submit deals. I want to learn a little bit more about your wholesaling. You guys provide that too in this, I guess, in your program, correct?
Yeah. So just from any kind of strategy, I'm going to go to the main menu system and I'm going to go to the last one where it says education.
Okay.
And then it takes a second to load. So up at the top, we have these different categories. Okay. So if we go to the wholesaling, you're going to see, take a second here. My internet's probably running slow. If you scroll down, you're going to see all types of things on wholesaling. But what I would start with is
Uh-huh.
this complete training series. So episode 1 through 5. And that's where we kind of start at the beginning of what wholesaling is, all the way through the process of wholesaling. Another one you really probably would like is how to wholesale a pre-foreclosure. I think
Yes.
I don't know, we've had 6 or 700,000 views just on this one particular video.
Really,
And
I gotta definitely check that out because like I said, that's my love. I don't know why. It's just like I just love this world. The
so,
pre-foreclosure and foreclosures.
yeah, well, I call it a niche business because not many people really understand the entire process of how we actually work with people that are behind in payments and so forth. And so definitely go through, and I even have other pre-foreclosure stuff on here that I always say go through everything 3 or 4 times because it always seems like there's that one thing that popped out that you didn't remember the first time you watched it. It's like,
Right.
oh, and I couldn't tell you how many people it's like, I just tell people, just follow the system, just follow the education, get as much education as you possibly can get.
Yeah,
And
I'm a firm believer in education. That's why I'm on this webinar. I'm always glued or always doing something because the more power, they say knowledge is power.
yeah,
Yeah, and
I mean, I just kept learning. I wanted to learn everything about real estate. I was the kind of person I was like, if you don't want to talk about real estate, don't come talk to me because that's all I wanted to talk about.
Right.
It's like, and all my friends were like, "Why are you doing that real estate thing? That's not going to work." And yeah,
they're
I
not
think
asking, they're not saying that now.
yeah,
but
this program
yeah,
seems like too good to be true. I love that you can send out mailings. I love that you can um yeah, you can, I guess you had the skip tracing thing program, and I think yours is
yeah.
the most affordable. I'm assuming because I checked into something else and I'm like, could be pretty pricey.
There's some cheap ones out there too. Just so you know, I believe we're the only company that in our space, Bo, and
Hmm.
Bo can probably clarify this, that actually uses the company we use. And all I can tell you is it's not the cheapest, but Homeland Security uses them to find people.
Gotcha.
So I would much rather go with quality over price. And that's just kind of what we believe in. I hate putting something out there. It's like, oh, that'll sell. That we always have, everything we do, there's a point, there's a purpose from a real estate investor point of view. And I think that's a big thing for us. And,
Yeah,
but no,
it's
we
funny.
appreciate it.
It's funny you said that, Chris, because I get to read all these chats that are coming in. I'm fielding a lot of stuff at the
Yeah.
same time.
Right.
And when you were talking about like texting a while ago, for example, Ed, who's got a question here in a minute, but he was saying, well, texting really is almost illegal these days, but he's also, somebody was chatting with him and it helps that, one of the co-founders of REI Pro is a developer. And I was like, well, I'm also an investor. So it helps to put those two things together. And I think that's what makes us unique is, not only from a developer standpoint, can we develop things, but also from an investor standpoint, we know what really needs to go in it. And to further that, the reason, we have people ask, why don't you have texting capabilities? It's not that we can't add texting capabilities to the software. That's just a small technical thing that we could do. It was more of we were seeing the writing on the wall that people are going to start getting hammered over this texting without permission. And we just didn't want to get people to get in trouble. So, there's a lot of things we
That's the
can do. We
only
just don't
reason.
always do it for those reasons.
Yeah, and look, there are companies that do it. We get it. I just know me. When I get a advertisement on my phone, everybody opens it. So they'll sell you on the fact that the open rate's 98%, right? But then we go to, block, delete, and I don't know.
I think I've gotten 4
Maybe I'm
spam
old
text
school.
messages myself right now since we've been on here.
Yeah,
It's awful.
but be careful using any kind of texting.
Yep.
For sure.
So did you have any other questions, Tricia, while we have you on?
No, not right now. I mean, everybody's asking a lot of excellent questions too. So I guess they're asking questions that I would have asked, but you've already answered them. So I
Yeah,
thank you
and
very
speaking of,
much.
there's been quite a number of people come on since we started that might have came in late. And just as a reminder, if you have a question, you need to go ahead and get that in so it gets in the queue in a queue in an order so I can call on you. So open up the Q&A panel, not the chat window, and go ahead and type your questions in so that we can get to them.
Yep. Thanks, Trish.
Appreciate it, Tricia.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a good one. Okay, so next question is coming in from Ed. Ed, I don't know if you are able to ask it live or not. I'll give you just a second to let me know if you can. And if not, then I will ask it for you. Okay, well, here's what Ed was basically asking. He want to know is, will we ever be able to get mailing label list out of the program? So I thought hopefully he would come on, and I said I do have some tips for you because we have done that in the past where once you create a campaign, maybe if you're printing letters, say out from your home, you want to be able to print those mailing labels right behind it. Obviously, he doesn't see a mute or unmute, but no, Ed, I have to actually allow you to talk, so I'll turn you on. That way you can clarify your question if you need to. But I assume, Ed, that you're building a campaign. Are you printing letters from your house?
Yeah, this would be specifically for foreclosures. I'm trying to, compose some really, letters that will move them,
Yeah.
You know how the foreclosures are, just like when I got foreclosed after the crash. Nobody wants to make a move till it's, D-Day.
Right. All right. So you know how when you go in, you build your campaign and then you go in and you hit print letters, right?
Yeah.
And of course, those come out 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and so on. I'm assuming you're familiar with creating a custom letter because you're building one that maybe motivates people more than say our stock pre-foreclosure letters there. One of the things, like, again, we used to have it where print labels. Problem with that is everybody has a different printer, from an HP to an Epson to a Brother to a this. And, we created one and it seemed like every so often it's just, it's slightly off on the margin for their printer. And it was just kind of really a pain. So we took that out. But what you can do and what other people do is they'll go into, let's say, Microsoft Word. They will create a new template, like for an Avery label, pick a number, whatever Avery label you have. That was the other thing. There's different shipping labels out there. And, if we're going to create, templates for everybody, well, which one are you actually using? So kind of, since we have a custom letter option that you can upload, you can go in, create the template using your Avery label 6427 or whatever the number is. And then you can upload that into here and the labels will print out in the same order that the letters printed out in.
Oh, well, that's perfect, I think.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring you on and make sure that's exactly what you're doing so we could clarify it, because that's a good tip. Maybe we need to put that in the actual frequently asked questions actually on our help site, because we do get that question asked from time to time.
I'm going to buy some Avery labels today. Do you know which template you use?
Ooh, I don't know the number right off hand, but if you're gonna mail them, they're gonna be, let's see.
Some of them are too small, but
Yeah, some of them are too small. I would get ones that are probably at least like 2 inches tall by.
but we'll be able to make that fit whichever label we got.
Yeah, because what's gonna happen is you're just gonna hit print letter. You're gonna choose your Avery label template that you upload, and then all our software is gonna do is stream it to the print driver on your computer. From there, it's gonna use that Microsoft Word template, and it's just gonna lay it out, whether it's 3 up, 4 up, 5 up or so on,
Right.
whichever ones. I do have some people chatting in the Avery label 5160 is pretty standard. So you might
Okay.
want to check on the 5160, but you should be able to create a new Avery label template in Word and then be able to save the Word document. From there, go upload it into REI Pro just like you upload a standard letter. And that should work, because I've heard of people doing that.
That's beautiful.
And if not, look, and if you have trouble with it, send in a support ticket and we will help you walk through that process.
That's amazing. Thank you.
You are welcome.
How many are you sending out each month, Ed?
I'm a brand new realtor. I've only sent one round out down here in Santan Valley. There was only 9, but I just expanded that. While we're on here, I just pulled up a list with like 1,500 or something, Pinal County. Went countywide instead of just
Right.
Santan Valley.
I-
So
If you send out a small number of these, like, let's just say 9, for an example, one of the best ways to send a mailer is to take your letter that you have and put it in a USPS priority envelope. And I know that costs a few dollars to do that, but if you're only sending 9 or 10, that is guaranteed to get open. Nobody throws a USPS priority envelope in the trash. They always open it, especially for pre-foreclosures.
And Chris, you're talking about that cardboard 8.5 by
Yeah.
11 type, not just
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, I've got a pile of those, and I've got the label printer. I can actually do that. It's about $7 a letter or something.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
but
not
what I-
cheap, but
What I did buy was these 9x12 matte black envelopes. I thought they're going to be quite a bit heavier than they were, but just to separate them from the junk mail.
there you go.
Yeah,
Easy.
and years
Yeah.
ago, when we were looking at doing letters versus postcards, we did a lot of research. We were traveling all over the country and doing polls, and we went with the postcards because it's going to hit them right at the mailbox. They don't have to open up anything, type of, they may still throw it away, but they've already seen what it was. And I know if you said something like 1,500, generally when we're doing something of that magnitude, we would send out a bulk mailer, like using a postcard, and that might be your round 1. And then you may want to follow that back up with a letter in a black envelope or something as kind of round 2. And then if somebody is right nearby, these 9 or 10, like Chris is saying, step it up with that envelope, because it will be consistency. Because a lot of people in pre-foreclosure, they're getting bombarded by phone calls. It may take several times saying, look, I'm here to help you and I can help you. So, you need to listen to me, type of thing.
I've also heard on the letters not to put a big company logo on there and stuff. Just kind of keep it kind of bare bones from me to them.
Yeah, you want to come across as just the individual,
Yeah.
not some big company. And a lot of times when you're trying to get a house, and not even just in pre-foreclosure, but something you want to buy cheap, I never put a company logo on it because I don't want to come across that I have a bunch of money. Like, I'm just a local person here looking to buy a couple of properties, no big deal. I don't have that much to work with. That's how I want to come across. All right.
Perfect.
Well, thanks, Ed. Hopefully that will help you out there.
Good info.
Awesome. Any other tips, Chris, you can see here on, there were some questions about lease options for people who don't know how to get started, maybe with some of the filters?
You mean in Lead Pro?
Yeah, and Lead Pro.
Yeah, so if
'cause
I
I'm
go to
not targeting.
Lead Pro, yeah, let me just pick Broward County again. I'll just choose absentee owner here.
Or by
Now,
strategy. I was meaning more or
you
less the
can search
strategy
by
button.
strategy. This is kind of, we wanted to put this in here for people that was just like, I don't even know where to start. If you click by strategy, if I go to lease options, it's going to pick everything you need to know. You just need to pick a location on this one. And if I go hit search, and what we did is kind of preset some of the filters for you. You obviously can go in and filter this down even more. So I may just only be searching for single family, so I may uncheck all of those. As I scroll down, you can see we need to have 20% equity. Okay. You can do dollar amount, but most of the time I like to say, how much equity is in this house? Okay. So we really want to target very specific low equity properties. That's where you're going to find. Now, you may want to, add in these prices. Okay. Like I
Mhm.
said, I want to start kind of at that middle price point and go up, Bo.
Yep.
Might target certain bedrooms, baths, things of that nature. A lot of people like to go to the last sold date. To me, with lease options, obviously you don't want to market a house that somebody just bought 2 months ago, and you want to give it some time. So a lot of people will say more than 2 years. So they have owned it for at least 2 years at this particular point. Okay. I do like individual owned, stay away from the company owned. It's hard to send mailers and stuff to a company owned. Doesn't mean that they are less likely to do the deal. It's just hard to get the material in the correct person's hands. And then I can go and apply those filters. Now, even at that number, we're still at 29,000. So you may
Yep.
even want to filter this down even more. Okay. And the way that I do that is price. That is the biggest thing. So I will come back up here and I'll just, you could do a selection from here. You can also type in a very specific number as well. So I'm going to go between 400 to 500. And that got me down here at the bottom. You can see almost 6,400 leads. I can still really pinpoint these because, as you can see, there's a lot of properties out there. There's
Yeah.
over 150 million or
Well, and you
something
used an
properties.
example. Then you use an example of less than 30%, so maybe potential equity between 5% and no, with a max of 30 or something.
Yeah, you could tweak this, up as you see fit. Get rid of, especially being in Florida, we're going to get rid of some of these HELOCs and reverse mortgages, but use these filters to your benefit. And then you can still fine tune it with school systems. You could draw multiple
Oh, yeah.
shapes on here. As you start to zoom in, now it'd probably be easier. We just open this map up here. So as I start to zoom into an area, use your draw tool, your schools, specific neighborhoods, all that good stuff. So if I go to the draw and say, okay, I know this particular area, boom. Also want to target, let's see, maybe this area here, and boom. So now I'm really starting to pinpoint exactly where I want to go. Now you go street level if you want and do this. You don't have to be so far zoomed out like I am. Once we get to one more. I'm just going to get out of this. Well, let me just exit off that. So I could go all the way down here and say, okay, maybe I just want a very small selection like down that street. You could do that as well. So don't think there's no leads in that particular area there. There's one right there. You can see that dot there. You can always pull up the information here as well. If you wanted to do some basic due diligence here, you could do that as well. We're also going to be showing you all of the neighbors information here as well. So you're really looking for the ones that have the dots. Now, let me get rid of that other shape, you can see it turns back to purple here. Okay, so utilize these filters. That's really going to pinpoint, especially if you're in an area that has a lot of leads. You're really going to have to start pinpointing. And that's where you could create multiple different campaigns. So this campaign has, maybe we get it down to 200, but it's very specific because of the filters. And then you change the filters just a little bit, and now I've got another new campaign. So you may have to do multiple campaigns with this as well. Now, one
Oh.
thing, I'll just point this out, Bo,
What's that?
is let me zoom out of here real quick. And although we put in one location, you guys know you can put in multiple locations up at the search box here. Okay. But you can
Actually, they may not know that.
so you could go back up here and let me pick Navarre, Florida. So Navarre, Florida is way over here.
Yeah.
If, the Fort Lauderdale area, Broward County is way down here. So this is great for the person that's, investing in multiple locations. If you ever need to change that, you can just click in here and, we can get rid of one of these and select another one. So, but one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is, although this is the Broward County line, if you click search by map, it's going to kind of remove that line to a way that you might want to get some of the neighboring properties that are still an absentee owner. Okay, so you just don't have to follow in with that boundary if you want to just go across that boundary. Because to me, I don't care if it's in Broward County or if it's the street across from Broward County. I may want that whole area. So that's another just tip for you guys, is just check that search by map.
All right. Got 2 more minutes. Chris, what else you got?
I don't
You're,
know.
you're about to show them on the dashboard something, I think.
I was.
Well, I thought I saw you clicking there. I don't know if you were or weren't. You were showing the dashboard view toggle, I think. You started to hover over it. Maybe that was just by habit.
Yeah.
I would say there's a couple of people chatting in, not in the Q&A, but will there be an option to show off-market properties versus on-market properties?
Well, if it's listed for sale, the only thing we could base that on is the MLS, because we can't do if a for sale by owner did it. Okay, so we don't have that access to the MLS. What we do have access through the MLS in all 50 states, doesn't matter if you're a non-disclosure state like Texas, are the sold comps, what things actually sell for. So we have special permission through the MLS to offer this, where a lot of people have heard PropStream lost their right to have sold comps through the MLS. And of course, all their affiliates were trying to tell you that, oh, you could do it another way. Well, at the end of the day, more houses sell in the MLS than anywhere else. And we update that twice a day. So
Yep.
what happens is so if I see a recent MLS sale, that just happened. If I see another sale, now what we want to do, Bo, so this, we'll end it on this, because this is probably really good information for people to know. When you're running comps, let me just go somewhere so we can actually run some comps. And I'm gonna pull up a Texas property here. If I go to my tools, I'm just gonna pull up the comparables. So in Texas, we have all MLS. Now, do you see down here, you can see B that says recent MLS sale. We give you that information until the paperwork is actually filed with the county recorder, and then the county recorder lets us know about it. When they let us know about it, you won't see recent MLS sale, even though this came through the MLS. Okay.
Right.
Does that hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and the actual sold price is still coming through the MLS, but the owner information, who bought the property, any mortgage data that
Right.
might be on it, that's coming in the county recorder's office.
Yep. So that there will be a delay on that side of it, but at the end of the day, you're here to get what did it sell for. That is the most important thing. Okay, so you can run comps.
Yep. Only last thing to point out there is, yes, you can do commercial. Yes, you can do land. Yes, you can do vacant land. We are having comments coming saying that they left other, I don't know if it was batch leads or whatever, because they just really like ours much better, and that our tax and foreclosure data is also very good compared to monsoon here in Arizona. I'm not sure even what that is, but I'm just throwing it out there for people who are on here that might know what that means.
Yeah, well, any data provider out there will tell you that our foreclosure data is the best you can get in the entire country. And
Mainly
we have a
because if anybody
very
else has, they
special
probably got it from them.
relationship with them.
Yep.
But you can see, down here you do have vacant land as well. So just keep that in mind. Of course, I got to choose an area here. Let's go. We'll just pick there, whatever. You see, there's almost 3,100. Now, when you go in here, another thing, if you guys want to go to your filters, obviously you could filter down from a vacant land point of view. Okay. Where obviously there's no single family here, it's vacant land. But another thing I want to show you guys, if I just let me go back in here real quick. I'm just going to choose absentee owner for a second. Another thing you may not know about under the filters is this search box underneath here. Okay, so I want you to know and understand that every single piece of real estate that is recorded in the United States, we have access to. I don't care if it's a dairy farm. I don't care if it's a golf course, a business of some sort that you wouldn't think of normally. We have access to it. Obviously, that it's not being very common. All of our common ones, single family, townhouse, and so forth would be up here, but we do have access to a ton of other types of properties as well.
Yep.
So,
And what we've done here with these common ones like single family, townhouse, condo, mobile, and so on, what happens is across the US, the counties themselves, they tag each property of a certain type. It's got a code associated with it. You're not going to know what, a 385 might mean and so on. And they may have for multifamily 6 or 7 different codes. We kind of combine that into one because they're all really multifamily. But the other option there is, like you said, golf course, churches, anything like that, very specific storage buildings. It can search that for you and then narrow that type down.
yeah, and the other thing is a lot of the counties, Bo, they could label the same type of structure something a little different.
They totally do. And each county is going to do something a little bit different because sometimes you got counties that just won't list it as a condo, for example. They'll list it as a single family unit, something.
Yeah.
And so that's just how the county's reporting that information. Only last thing that I know, Chris, that I see is somebody want to know, could you quickly go back and how did you actually run a comp? Like where were you at when you ran that comp?
So you want to go to your property section, number one, and then you could go select any one of your properties here. There's 2 places you could access comps. The first place is the menu tools. So I can click comps here. Let me show you the other place you can get to it, which would be down in step 4 when we need to make an offer. You could see comps here as well.
Yeah, and there's technically a third, but we're going to get rid of this due to some confusion up at the top under the picture.
Yeah.
There was a thing called recent sales. That is not comps. I wanted to point that out.
That's right. So as you can see, it memorized what I did here. So I'd like to go in and try to, if you could do 4 or 5, do 4 or 5 here. The number one, without getting into detail, we've got a great training video on this. The number one column that I look at, this is the very first column I look at, is square footage. So I know my subject property is 2686. My goal is to first scroll down. Now, these are labeled by distance from the subject property. So A would be the closest to the subject property. You don't want to go too far out either because you could be in a different subdivision. So you do need to be a little familiar with that area. So I'm going to look at square footage as my number one key factor. Then I start to move into the other categories to make sure that it's similar. Another really good point here to make, Bo, is look at comp B and C.
Yeah.
Comp B sold for 525, but comp C sold for 289. You can see this little arrow here, and that'll open up a new tab and Google that address, because I want you guys to understand what was the condition of that property when it sold. And a lot of times you can go to Zillow and other places to see pictures. So this 289.9 may not be a relevant comp if it was sold in a distressed situation where a lot of work needs to be done. Generally, we want to pull comps that, hey, it's going to be in tip-top shape or as close to it as possible.
Yeah, and I know, and I know just historically, prices from December of last year to May have been on the rise. So for that to be that far off with the same beds, bath, square foot and same year built, that property had to have something's going to be a lot of work done to that.
Yeah.
It'd have to be.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. You always like to verify those. If there's any pictures on the property, I like to see the condition of these particular comps. So
All right. I appreciate
right.
everybody sticking in there with us for the hour.
yes, thanks for joining us. And we're going to do this again. As long as you guys want us to keep doing this, we're going to keep doing this. And we can make it a little bit easier from a registration standpoint, maybe even be able to submit some questions ahead of time. And everybody have a great Friday, great weekend. And again, our customer support team's one of the best out there. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to them. They're awesome. Every single person in our office is awesome. So, and they're happy to help. So, all right.
All right. Until next time.
All right. Have a great
Happy
day,
Thursday.
guys.